Pete, it's you. Now, Pete Cartwright is doing supper tonight. Did I mention this?
Oh.
Well, he is, and he's also going to not do a song. Maybe he's doing a story. Or possibly two.
One that's very short, and you've probably heard it.
He's going to entertain you. Pete Cartwright.
This one you may know, and it was two mates, Bill and Fred, just happened to run into each other in the street one day, and Bill said, "What are you up to this afternoon, Fred?" He said, "I'm going to go and see that new cowboy film." And Bill said, "Oh, I might come along with you." So off they went to the pictures. And towards the end of it, Bill leaned over to Fred and said, "I bet you $20 that the hero falls off his horse at the end of the film." And Fred said, "You're on." Anyway, sure enough, right at the end of the film, the hero fell off. Anyway, they were walking out and Fred pulled out $20 and tried to hand it to him. And Bill said, no, look mate, I was having you on because I've actually seen the film before." And Fred said, "No, it's okay, I have too, but I didn't think you'd be silly enough to do it again." But anyway, the next story is actually a true one, and it's out of my past. And it's about the last time I ever rode a horse. And it was 15 years ago in one of my favourite countries in the world, which is the Czech Republic. And I'd been there before. This was the second last time I was there. And I decided to go to some places I hadn't been before. And I went all the way down south to a beautiful medieval city called Český Krumlov. And I'm a backpacker and I was staying at the hostel. And there's quite a bit to this story, but anyway, I'm just filling it in. And anyway, one morning after breakfast, a young American couple came out to where I was in the foyer reception area going through some leaflets. And they said, "Oh, hi Pete, what are you doing today? What is there to do?" And I was looking at this and I said, "I think I'll go horse riding." And they looked at me and one said, "Is that difficult?" And I said, "Well, it's a riding school, so it should be pretty safe. You haven't ridden before?" "No." I said, "Yeah, well, it's only difficult if you fall off. But I don't think they'll let you do that." And I said, "It's about a 30-minute walk away." And I said, "Oh, can we come with you?" "Yeah, sure." And I just looked at their feet and they had the right sort of shoes on to fit into the stirrups. So off we went. And 5 minutes later we were out in the countryside, and the countryside is just absolutely beautiful. But anyway, when we got to the riding school, and there was a lovely, long blonde young Czech lass who was taking all the bookings and putting us in the waiting lounge and all that sort of stuff. And so we waited until it was time for the next ride, and there were more than enough of us there, so that the latecomers had to wait for the next ride. Anyway, so she took us out to the marshalling yards, where the horses were already saddled up, all in a row. And she turned to me and said, her English was very good. She turned to me and said, "You're Australian, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "So you can ride a horse?" But I always thought I'd say, "Yeah, we all get up and ride them before breakfast." I thought I won't say that. Anyway, I said, "Yes, I can ride a horse." And she said, "Good. I'll give you this one. Now you have to control him because he's naughty." And I thought, "Oh great, I get the naughty horse." She said, "Yes, what he tries to do is that when he goes anywhere near a bush, he tries to eat the leaves. You have to stop him." And I said, "Oh, that's okay. I just rein control. I can do that. That's all right." "Good," she said. Anyway, he was a wonderful horse. He was about 15 hands, and he was a chestnut. He was a big, strong fellow. So anyway, we all got on the horses, and off we went back down the road a bit. And then we left the road and started going up into the forests. And the first part was up dirt trails and things like that. But then we got off there and started walking the horses over fallen timber. But luckily the trees were they weren't this thick. They were more like, telegraph pole thickness. And just carefully stepping over those for a while. It was just practice of different ways to, walk the horse and what have you. And then finally we got back onto a dirt track, and it was going uphill, and the horses were getting sort of bunched up a bit in single file, because, you know, different size horses and different riders with skills and what have you. And mine had been trying to eat bushes everywhere he went, and I just kept stopping him. And in the end he sort of gave up. And I thought he's going to behave now, but he got closer and closer and closer to the horse in front. And I thought I should slow him down a bit, but he pulled another trick before I could do that. And he shoved his head forward and stuck his nose up the other horse's bum. So I thought, what are you doing? Stop that. Anyway, so we got up, and I was near the front of the single file, and we got up to the top, and it was this wonderful green plateau. It was about sort of the size of, I guess, the field at the Gamma, for example. It was about that size, and it was lovely. And it was a plateau, and it actually overlooked Chesky Krumlov and the hills around there. And the others, some of the others were still coming up, and the girl wasn't in charge of the ride, she was still back there. There was some bloke in charge. And I can feel my horse quivering while the others were coming up, and I thought, he wants to go for a run. So off we went, round the thing, and when I wheeled him round and came back, and the guy in charge was having kittens, which was pretty awkward because we didn't know what to do with them on the way home. I actually made that. But anyway, he was cranky because he was saying, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that. And I said, but that's what he wanted to do. You know, he's part of the ride too. Anyway, so we went back, and the horse was really well behaved on the way back, because that's what he wanted. Anyway, he took one little try at having a go at a leaf on a bush, but, you know, just stop that. But he was really well behaved, and we got back down to the riding school eventually, and down to the saddling yards, and dismounted, and a couple of guys came out from the stables, and they started unsaddling the horses so they can give them a rub down. And I was standing with my horse and just talking to him and thanking him for the ride. He was a lovely horse. But the bloke in charge had marched off to the building where we checked in. He came back out with the lovely blonde lady, and he was talking to her and pointing at me and what have you, and she came walking towards me with a frown on her face. And I thought, why is she coming to talk to me? Maybe she wants to see if he ate anything. Anyway, as she came up to me, I just looked at her and said, do you have an apple? He was really well behaved on the way back, and I think he deserves one. And she just stood there and stared at me for a moment, didn't say a word, and then just turned around and walked away. And I thought, oh, okay. So I just kept patting the horse and talking to him. And a couple of minutes later she came back. She wasn't frowning, and she was sort of trying not to smile, and we Slavic people don't smile very much anyway. But and she had an apple. And she cut it into 4 pieces, and she held it out to me. And so I just took 2 of the pieces, and I just looked at her. And so we took turns feeding up to the horse. And then I thanked the horse again, gave him a hug, and I thanked the lass. I thought about giving her a hug too, but and I can't. I'd asked her the horse's name, and I can't remember it because it was a Czech name, and I just can't remember it. You know, it wasn't a person's name; it was whatever. I can't even remember her name. But anyways, and I bid my farewells and went back to where the young American couple were waiting with a few other people, and we walked all the way back to Chesky Krumlov and went to lunch. And that's the story of the naughty horse.